mean for severe weather and hurricane forecasts? 1 month after a devastating wildfire, residents of a California community are eager to rebuild their lives.
Why was the fire allowed to burn for hours?
The new way seismologists are tracking risks for possible earthquakes and volcanoes in the Pacific Northwest.
Is installing some of the first sensors of their kind on this part of the mountain.
What's the secret behind growing supersized produce?
We were lucky enough to get an 11.65 pound tomato.
And a closer look at the importance of bird banding.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. The two hurricanes in the Atlantic are once again expected to bring rough surf to the entire East Coast. Humberto and Imelda continue moving away from the United States, but are generating swells that are likely to cause life-threatening rip currents. Meteorologist Lauren Oleski is tracking the tropics for us this morning.
Humberto is expected to dissipate later on today. This is the track that was given to us from the National Hurricane Center. That's all they've got. It's going to get picked up by a front boundary later today. Winds currently at 80 miles per hour. And then Imelda right now has winds at 90 miles per hour. So it's gotten a little stronger since yesterday. It actually could briefly become a Category 2 hurricane before it impacts Bermuda, which is right there. They're already dealing with rough coastal conditions from Humberto. Of course, some heavy rain. And they're going to be dealing then with more heavy rainfall. Those coastal conditions continue. And of course, those very strong winds when Imelda passes through. Both of those storms are impacting the entire eastern United States coastline with high surf advisories. We've got small craft advisories. Gale warnings are in effect, coastal flood advisories too.
The impact from those hurricanes is still being felt in places like the Outer Banks in North Carolina. 5 homes collapsed yesterday due to strong winds and surf from the outer bands of Humberto and Imelda. The homes were unoccupied at the time. According to the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, 17 privately owned beach homes have collapsed in the area since 2020. And we now know Hurricane Imelda will not directly hit the Atlantic coast, but for a time there was some uncertainty about the direction that it would actually take. Why was this the case? Meteorologist Kit Alexander explains some of the weather factors at play that made the forecast a tricky one.
So I know you've heard meteorologists talking about the tropics and the forecast and how it was so difficult with Imelda. But let's talk about some of the reasons why the forecast was a long ways from being set in stone. When forecasting a path for a tropical system, many weather features play a role in where the storm's eventually going to go. In this case, with Imelda, there was a cold front, an area of low pressure that pretty much stalled out along the Carolina coast. Combine that with high pressure that was located to the northeast. In addition, typical factors like the upper level wind patterns, the Bermuda high, for instance, sea currents, weather factors like shear temperature, dry air, etc. One of the key factors that's played a role in the location of Imelda, where it would go, is the location of Hurricane Humberto. Where Humberto is a bit to the north and east, this is helping to steer Imelda. The combination of all these different weather variables made it difficult for some of the models to solve, ultimately leading to the model uncertainty. But the good news is, thankfully, Imelda has made that easterly curve away from the United States.
Well, as you probably know by now, the federal government shut down at midnight after Republicans and Democrats were unable to reach an agreement. As far as we know, the impact on the National Weather Service should be minimal. Most workers there are designated emergency employees, meaning they will continue to work. The service says it will continue issuing weather warnings, watches, and daily forecasts. The process of hiring new employees will likely pause during the shutdown. At least 69 people are dead and many more injured from a strong earthquake in the Philippines. The 6.9 quake struck yesterday around 10 p.m. local time. It was centered underwater near the Cebu province. Rescuers are using backhoes and dogs to search for survivors in collapsed homes and buildings. It was the strongest earthquake to strike the nation in more than a decade. It comes just over a week since back-to-back typhoons killed more than a dozen people in the Philippines. And torrential rain from the remnants of a one-time Hurricane Gabrielle sent water cascading, as you see here, down walkways and streets in Spain's Valencia region. There's no word on any injuries or deaths at this point from Monday's floods that happened in the city of Culleura, but it was a reminder of flash floods nearly a year ago that killed more than 200 people after the region received a year's worth of rain in mere hours. And it's been 1 month since a massive wildfire destroyed large portions of the California gold rush town of Chinese Camp. This week, the first phase of the cleanup is underway, and there's a lot of work to do before life can actually return to normal. Tori Apodaca reports.
We're gonna make it.
They may have lost everything on their property, but they aren't losing hope.
This is where the Campions survive.
The Lightning Complex fire consumed Chinese Camp, leaving people like Marianne and Robert Patrick living out of a trailer in tents on their burnt-out property, surrounded by blackened metal that's now only memories. Tuesday, marking the first phase of recovery, with state-certified cleanup crews searching for hazardous materials like propane tanks and batteries, placing placards on properties, clearing homeowners to move in and sift through the rubble. But the community still has a lot of questions about how they got here.
Why? Why was the fire allowed to burn for hours in the Red Hills approaching town?
Denise's home survived,
This was my piano.
but her garage that was full of decades of antiques and relics, unrecognizable. She says the gold rush town she grew up in and raised her children in now looks like a war zone.
It was just block after block of smoldering ash and metal sticking up, and I have never seen anything like that.
All of the non-hazardous debris isn't going anywhere until phase 2, when homeowners will have the option to pay to do it themselves or opt into a state program. That'll require them moving off of the property for the cleanup.
Every year, everything was the same. You could always rely on Chinese Camp being Chinese Camp. And then now it's completely changed.
This community devastated but determined to recover.
We will end up rebuilding, and we're not going to go anywhere.
It's the first day of October, and we are heading deeper and deeper into the fall season. Some places are seeing a good amount of those fall colors. Let's turn to meteorologist Jordan Evans for the latest fall foliage update.
October starts today and fall foliage continues to expand across the lower 48. We're now past peak just outside of Denver, Colorado, and parts of the Rocky Mountains and Salt Lake City, Utah. The aspens have looked fantastic in this part of the country, and that continues to expand for areas around Montana to Idaho, parts of the Northwest. Arizona, just outside of Flagstaff, will also start to see their aspens change here in the next week or two. Approaching peak fall color now just in the upper Midwest around Minneapolis, to parts of the upper peninsula of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and parts of New England too, getting close to peak fall foliage around Vermont and the White Mountains there of New Hampshire. Still on schedule, I think, for a lot of the areas to see their average peak fall color around the Mid-Atlantic. That's going to be late October to early November. Parts of the plains and the south, that'll be more of middle to late November, getting close to South Georgia, North Florida, and parts of Texas, not until closer to Thanksgiving. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans.
And while the leaves might be changing in some places, not everyone is seeing those fall-like temperatures. Across Iowa is still feeling like summer. Meteorologist Grayson Frund tells us the why behind this unusual weather.
This stretch of dry, warm weather is not what we typically experience in late September. The reason behind this weather pattern is a setup in the atmosphere known as a blocking high. Right now, we have an area of high pressure parked right over the central U.S., essentially acting as a roadblock in the atmosphere, preventing weather systems from moving through. The ridge pushes the jet stream further north and keeps the areas beneath the ridge dry, which is why the forecast remains rain-free really throughout the rest of this week. And along with lots of sunshine, we're also dealing with temperatures well above average for this time of year by around 10 to 20 degrees. Normally, we'd be seeing highs in the upper 60s and lower 70s, that really nice fall-like feel, but most of us in eastern Iowa are hitting the 80s day after day, and this trend is set to continue through the upcoming weekend.
And what a sight in Texas on Tuesday. A driver captured this dust devil spinning across an empty field. Brown dirt and dust are seen swirling around this field, but it dissipates just before crossing the highway. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll head to Washington State and learn about the new system being used to monitor for earthquakes, and we'll find out why farmers in Texas are worried about this year's pumpkin crop.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have cooler temperatures on the way in the Northeast for 2 days. This cool down will be short-lived. It's actually going to feel like October with temps running in the 60s for most areas during the afternoon today. We have a lot of sunshine. High pressure is firmly in control of our weather into and through the weekend. Here we are during the afternoon with a lot of sunshine. Notice those 60s we just outlined. There may be a patchy frost, especially in northern New England. On your Thursday morning, afternoon highs will again make it into the 60s.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Javali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Sunshine is returning and temperatures will be a lot cooler. So your Wednesday afternoon will still be a beautiful day. You'll notice a big difference with temperatures, and the lower humidity will likely see those highs lingering in the low 70s to upper 60s. Not a drop of rain in sight for some time to come. As we get into Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we'll be chilly, even some 40s across the area, but back to the upper 60s for highs Thursday afternoon.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. High pressure is settling in here as we continue through the middle of the week. A few pop-up showers possible across the Mississippi River Valley and across the Florida Peninsula heading through Wednesday and Thursday. Relatively drier conditions for most of the Carolinas and the northern Gulf Coast heading into Wednesday and Thursday. Forecast high temperatures on your Wednesday in the 70s for much of the Carolinas, the low 80s in the low country and across parts of Georgia, with the upper 80s, low 90s across the northern Gulf Coast.
I'm meteorologist Kelly Foster at NBC 15 in Mobile, Alabama, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
Washington State's landscape is striking, but it comes with potentially devastating geological risks like volcanoes and earthquakes. But the U.S. Geological Survey just built a new station in a very remote spot to monitor those risks. Meteorologist George Wallenberger joins them on a mission into the mountains.
Mount Rainier. During its next eruption, it could send a mix of volcanic debris and water right down the White River toward communities downstream. To protect against this, the U.S. Geological Survey is installing some of the first sensors of their kind on this part of the mountain. These unobstructed views yield unobstructed measurements. It's an ideal site for sensors. The challenge is getting equipment up to this remote location. It takes a team, a caravan, beginning with a 2,500-foot climb up the service road at Crystal Mountain. Up steep slopes, over rocky roads, past sharp drop-offs, through tight turns, the gravel ends. It's now on foot.
Well, that's Mount Rainier. As we're looking at the Emmons Glacier.
At 6,800 feet, it's grueling, hauling cables and pickaxes. We find that ideal site where this team of geologists, Kat, Hannah, and Craig, dig 3 trenches, 6 inches deep, 80 feet long.
Cable run will come up through here.
Wes, a seismologist, maps out the smartest locations to connect sensors.
And it'll work up around here.
That will link to a large, intricate centerpiece. It takes a helicopter to bring in the hut. This will be the nucleus of the monitoring station. Sturdy enough to withstand the winter, even buried in the snow, this hut will house power systems, communications, running all winter long. But in the summertime, solar panels will charge the batteries.
This is literally just a fancy microphone.
An erupting volcano or flowing lahar generates vibrations or seismic waves in the ground, but they'll also emit vibrations in the air. below the frequency which we can hear. Those infrasound waves can travel great distances. These sensors from beneath these screens and with their staggered placement will receive those infrasound waves at different times, triangulating to the direction of the leading edge of the debris flow. A tool for emergency managers to help warn communities down the White River. An effort worth the work for when the mighty Tahoma erupts next.
Rain is something farmers look forward to for the health of their crops, but culinary pumpkin producers in the Texas High Plains got a little too much of a good thing. Drew Powell reports.
The 2025 outlook for culinary pumpkins on the High Plains and South Plains appeared to be stable to profitable. But that outlook quickly changed as a result of Mother Nature. Hailstorms combined with one too many rainfall events that were bunched up in a short amount of time in the month of June changed the outlook. In fact, some pumpkin producers decided not to plant a crop at all this year.
We were going to plant pumpkins in 2025 at the beginning in June. That's usually when we plant them. But then we got hit by a really bad storm that came out of nowhere. And so it caused a lot of damage to our farm. So we chose to hold off on planting pumpkins.
So we were a little bit concerned. So we were even thinking about buying some from another place to kind of cover just in case we didn't have them. But as the time came closer, they're fabulous.
Regional weather patterns are leading to a slight increase for consumers compared to previous years. Availability and price for culinary pumpkins depends on local and regional growing conditions.
And that one that hit us on June 8th had a lot of hail, wind, damage. We had a cattle pot. It blew it over, so just lots of damage. So we don't like those kind of storms when they come like that. We really appreciate the moisture, but not all the wind and the hail.
Mid to late October is the best time to buy a culinary pumpkin. This helps ensure its freshness just in time for all Halloween-related activities.
In Wisconsin, it's a different story for fall produce. When it comes to the perfect pumpkin, one grower is taking things to another level. Eric Peterson has that story.
In a small outside patch just northeast of Fond du Lac, Del Faust and his wife Julie have been growing giants for years.
Right here we have the Atlantic giants. One is white and one is yellow.
Okay.
And next to them are the bushel gourds. That's another competition. Then we have down there we have a marrow, and back in the leaves is a field gourd.
Wisconsin Giant Pumpkin Growers Association President Del Faust says inside this high tunnel is another giant.
Long gourds, which Julie and I are currently U.S. record holders at 159¼ inches long. We had to dig a 2 or 3 foot hole so it would keep growing straight.
Julie says giant tomatoes are her favorite.
I go out here for 2 minutes and it's 2 hours to clip them and get them where you want. You go for the mega blooms, which is a fused blossoms. And we were lucky enough 3 years ago to get an 11.65 pound tomato. And so that was a world record in Guinness, and it was a certified record.
Julie says she has a couple prospects this year.
We won almost 7 pounds for early way off, but we're hoping some of those mega blooms still might come through.
Just up the hill, Del is banking on this giant Wisconsin watermelon to get some attention.
Up here you have to kind of baby them along a little.
Yeah.
And the climate isn't just right for watermelon, but when you get a big one, you're still competing on a state level.
Bird banding is crucial for scientists to learn about a variety of bird species. Jason Hurst shares more about bird banding and its importance.
Before the scientists can do their research, they have to catch the bird, and that in itself is an art.
This is a mist net, and this is a typical way that people passively catch birds during bird banding activities. So this is a fine nylon netting, and this is a typical gauge for catching most small songbirds.
After the birds are safely captured in one of the nets, the scientists from the UM Ecology Laboratory carefully attach an identifying band and sometimes a transmitter, like these.
It sits kind of right on their rump, right above their preen gland, right above their tail feathers, and these loops go around their legs, so it's kind of like a backpack.
And when field trips come through, they have lots of questions, and they're certainly mesmerized by what they see up close.
It's a great opportunity for us because this is a closed area and they do a lot of conservation work here. So it's nice that our members can, or really anybody in the public that sees our field trips advertised, they can come with us. And we just learn so much.
And when amateur bird enthusiasts and scientists come together, a lot can be accomplished.
We're excited to share some knowledge with them and hope that people leave with a little bit more awareness of nature and what's happening around them.
And time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over Los Angeles, California.
Good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. A lot of 80s across the Midwest for the day today. Just a little bit of rain across the plains and some 70s across the Great Lakes for the day today. Now, as we continue into the day tomorrow, pretty similar temperatures for us and just a couple of showers there up by Minnesota. Most of us are dry as we head into your Friday with more sunshine coming back out for us and temperatures warming back up.
Well, a good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchin. Our forecast today across the region, starting off with a nice morning. The afternoon, really pretty nice day. Highs in the 80s and 90s, so a little bit warmer than normal. Slight chance of a little rain shower or two around New Orleans and eastern Louisiana. We step into Thursday's forecast. Comfortable in the morning, a little toasty in the afternoon. May get a couple of showers, scattered showers, East Texas, Louisiana, portions of Arkansas. Highs 80s and 90s.
Well, hi there and a good Wednesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. It's the first day of October. It's looking and feeling like it, to say the least, in the PNW. Been a stormy overnight for Seattle and Portland. A chance for off and on showers and thunderstorms today and locally gusty winds that could knock out power for a few. Still upper 90s around Phoenix, beautiful around Los Angeles initially, but eventually talking about some of these showers working their way down the California coastline this afternoon. And that's the scene from here.
I'm Les Still, senior meteorologist at News 12 in eastern North Carolina, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
It's fog season, but some places are foggier than others. Meteorologist Jeff Exline posted on Instagram about the foggiest locations in North America.
Fall really is the foggiest season. The nights become longer and cooler. Clear, calm night allows the ground to cool off quickly. Drop in temperature forces the air temperature to drop to its dew point, allowing fog to form at the surface. Here are the top 5 foggiest locations in North America. No mistake, Mistake Island, Maine is just found northeast of Bar Harbor, and foggy conditions are reported 1,600 hours a year. San Francisco's close location to the Pacific Ocean plays a huge part in the thick layer of fog that blankets them. Cape Disappointment does not disappoint. Located in the southwestern corner of Washington State, it averages 165 days a year with fog. Point Reyes, California, just north of San Francisco, sees up to 200 foggy days per year. But the city that holds the title for the foggiest place in North America and the world belongs to Grand Banks, Newfoundland, Canada. Thanks to the warm waters of the Gulf Stream traveling northward into the chilly Labrador Sea, fog becomes
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great day, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.